She had just closed her eyes, drifting into a rare moment of calm, when a voice crackled through the cabin, "Is there a combat pilot on board?" Little did she know, those words would turn her ordinary flight into a story of courage, split-second decisions, and lives hanging in the balance. And before we begin, if you love your mom and dad, hit that subscribe button right now and show some love to them, they deserve it every single day. Amanda Hayes was exhausted. After months of rigorous training, long missions, and endless hours in simulators, she finally had a few precious hours to herself on a commercial flight back home. She settled into seat 8A, a window seat she had picked months earlier, and allowed herself to drift into the rare luxury of sleep. The hum of the engines and the soft glow of the cabin lights provided a soothing background as the plane cruised at 35,000 feet. She had barely slipped into dreams when the captain's voice boomed over the intercom, urgent and commanding, "Attention, passengers. Is there a combat pilot on board? We have an emergency situation." Amanda jolted awake, heart pounding. She glanced around to see passengers murmuring in confusion and fear. She hadn't expected to hear those words on a routine flight, especially not while she was catching a few moments of rest. Amanda's mind raced. She had been trained for emergencies like this, but never imagined it would happen in a civilian aircraft filled with people who had no idea what was about to unfold. She stood quickly, letting the seatbelt click out of place, and approached the front where a flight attendant was trying to maintain calm among the passengers. "I'm a combat pilot," she said, her voice steady but adrenaline coursing through her veins. The attendant's eyes widened, relief mingling with awe. "The captain needs you now," she said, guiding Amanda to the cockpit door. Inside, the cockpit was tense. The co-pilot's hands gripped the controls tightly, sweat beading on his forehead, while the captain pointed to the instruments. "We've lost both engines on one side, and the plane is losing altitude fast," he explained. Amanda's training kicked in immediately. She scanned the situation, calculated the risks, and began issuing calm instructions, guiding the captain and co-pilot through maneuvers to stabilize the aircraft. Her mind worked at lightning speed, recalling countless drills, simulations, and real-world combat scenarios. She wasn't just flying for herself now, she was flying for every life on board. The first twist came when they realized the storm outside was far worse than predicted. Lightning cracked the sky and turbulence shook the cabin violently. Amanda's heart sank as she calculated how little margin they had before the aircraft would be critically unstable. The captain looked at her, eyes wide, and said, "We might have to attempt a water landing if we can't reach an airport in time." Amanda nodded, her jaw tight, already running simulations in her mind. She directed the team to angle the plane toward the nearest emergency airstrip, guiding them through every twist of the storm. As they descended, a second complication arose. One of the engines completely failed, throwing the plane into a dangerous spin. Amanda grabbed the controls, her hands steady despite the chaos, and guided the aircraft back into a manageable glide. Passengers in the cabin screamed and prayed, unaware that the calm, professional voice now over the intercom was keeping them alive. She had to make a split-second decision: attempt the emergency landing on a short strip surrounded by forests and rivers, or risk flying further toward a larger airport that was technically safer but several more miles away. Every second counted, and the lives of over 100 passengers hung in the balance. Choosing instinct and training over fear, Amanda guided the aircraft to the smaller airstrip, calculating angles, wind speed, and descent rate with precision. The storm's fury battered the plane, shaking it as if it were a toy, and yet she remained focused, speaking to the captain and co-pilot in short, clear commands. The plane touched down roughly, skidding on wet tarmac, but Amanda's experience ensured it remained intact, preventing what could have been a catastrophic crash. Emergency crews rushed toward the aircraft, and passengers erupted into cheers and tears as they realized they had survived a nightmare largely thanks to her expertise. After the landing, Amanda finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. Flight attendants hugged her, passengers thanked her repeatedly, and even the captain shook her hand with deep respect. But the story didn't end there. A news crew covering the incident revealed that one of the passengers had been carrying a child with a severe allergy requiring immediate medical attention. Amanda's quick decisions in stabilizing the flight had ensured the child received care without delay. Another twist came when the airline publicly credited her bravery, and she learned that one of the survivors was a retired general who had flown countless missions himself. He approached Amanda with tears in his eyes and said, "I've trained hundreds, but today, you saved lives that were counted as nothing less than a miracle." Despite the accolades, Amanda remained humble. She returned to her seat 8A, now surrounded by passengers who looked at her not just with gratitude but with awe. For a long time, she simply stared out the window at the clouds parting after the storm, reflecting on how one ordinary moment of sleep had turned into the extraordinary responsibility of saving lives. She thought about her own family, the sacrifices made by her friends and fellow pilots, and the reality that training and preparation meet fate in ways you never expect. By the time the plane finally reached its destination, Amanda's story had become the talk of the city, inspiring others not just with heroism but with the quiet courage of someone willing to act decisively under unimaginable pressure. In the weeks that followed, Amanda's story spread across media outlets, military forums, and social platforms, sparking conversations about the unsung heroes among us, the people trained to act in life-or-death situations even when no one else realizes it. She received letters from children and adults alike, thanking her for showing what it means to remain calm, focused, and brave when the stakes are highest. Her own family, once worried about her safety, expressed overwhelming pride, realizing the woman they had watched grow up in a small town had carried not just a plane, but the lives and hopes of strangers through a storm no one could have anticipated. Even as the fame of that day began to fade from headlines, the memory lingered. For Amanda, for the crew, and for every passenger who had felt their lives teetering on the edge. The story of a young pilot sleeping in 8A when called into action became a lesson in courage, preparation, and the quiet power of stepping forward when the world needs you most. And in interviews and speeches that followed, Amanda always credited the teamwork, the calm of the captain and co-pilot, and the shared humanity in the cabin that day. Heroism, she emphasized, is rarely a solo act, it's a combination of readiness, courage, and the willingness to put others before yourself. And now I want to ask you, where are you watching this from? Which part of this country are you standing in tonight as you hear the story of Amanda Hayes, the young pilot who turned a routine flight into an extraordinary act of bravery that saved countless lives?